the 60-day IL. His season, it is now over.
See ya.
The Angels may shut down. Mike Trout hasn't played since, I believe, May 17th. They haven't officially shut him down yet, but it looks like it's heading that way. He's had a calf strain all year. You might as well just put him in the cupboard at this point, and we'll see you in February in spring training. The Rays, another team, Scotty, they never lose. It really is ridiculous. They beat the Red Sox 6-1 last night. They've won 8 in a row. Here is Kevin Cash. He was happy to see his offense score and then add on and add on. Here's Cash.
We kind of had a little bit of a frustrating inning when we had bases loaded, no outs. We were able to get one, but I think the guys, they came back and we got a big at bat from Z. Then certainly Nelly driving the ball down the line and Wander picking up his hit, extending just a really impressive run streak that he's on.
30 games that guy's reached base in his first year. He's made quite a splash on this team. They are tough. They're not blowing the East. They're winning the East, and they're going into the playoffs ready for a full-length series. None of this one-game wild card stress.
And honestly, to me, they're the favorites in the American League. They went to the World Series last year. They beat the Astros last year. They beat the Yankees last year. They should be the favorite. And you're right about Wander Franco. 30 games now. He's reached base. Red Sox, Scotty, have their a COVID issue right now. Several players have been put on the list. Martin Perez, Kiki Hernandez, Matt Barnes among them. So the Red Sox kind of going through what the Yankees went through about a month ago. A ton of guys going on the COVID list. What a shame. In Toronto, Vlad Guerrero Jr., he keeps going. 2 homers for him. Robbie Ray with 10 strikeouts. The Jays beat the Orioles 7-3. Who doesn't beat the Orioles at this point, honestly? The Cardinals beat the Reds 3-1. Nice outing for John Lester. Geez, the Reds have lost 3 in a row after taking over that second wild card. All right, let's go to the Mets. Javi Baez and Francisco Lindor apologized for the thumbs down nonsense. Javi Baez did have quite the explanation for everything that went on with it. Here he is before the game, Scotty, giving you the breakdown of what happened. No. We'll get that one for you later on. Javi Baez and Lindor, both of them pretty much said, Scotty, we weren't really doing it towards the crowd. It was something to pump us up. Baez said, I do it to the opposing dugout sometimes. These guys listed off like several hundred excuses as to why they gave the thumbs down and not what they said after the game, which Baez said. It was about the crowd. So they had a lot of excuses today.
He's lying through his teeth. They abused him endlessly today in a pinch-hitting role. He came into that game that they lose anyway, and he gets abused by the fans today, full on. He's finished in New York. They'll never re-sign him. He'll be out of here faster than you can spit. And his excuse now is so pathetic because after the game he said that's exactly what they did. And let me tell you something. He convinced his boy, Lindor, to go all in on this, and they were doing it together. Then they got everybody else on the team to do it. So they're the ringleaders, those two. And I'll tell you what, it makes Lindor look like an absolute drip moron because he just signed a 10-year deal, and he is stuck with the Mets for the rest of his career, and they gave him tons of money. And now the fans know that he's a little wussy phony, and he quickly turned on his own fans in New York. It's the kiss of death. I guarantee you for the rest of his time with the Mets, bad luck will follow him because he bought all in to booing the fans with the thumbs down. The Alderson-Cohen brass are the ones that forced them to apologize, forced them to make up all their lies today. The Mets are a joke. They always have been, except twice in their history when they won the World Series. The rest of the time, they've been an utter joke, and you know it. You live in New York City. I live in New York City. Mafia's a Mets fan. He lives in New York City. He knows that they're a joke. He's just a fan of the team. He loves the team. The fans should be entitled to love the team. But the front office, whether it was the Wilpons or this new billionaire, he's a tool too. And Alderson's so old, he should be golfing with Biden. Boom, mic drop.
Listen, you can change the players, you can change the manager, and as we've now found out in the last year, you can change the owner. It don't matter. It is always the same story when it comes to the team in Flushing in New York City. They're finishing up a suspended game with the Marlins this afternoon. It's not going very well for them. They're down 5-1 in the bottom of the ninth inning. They will play another game later on out at Citi Field. How about Bryce Harper last night and the Phillies? Let's hear this one. A little two-run jack. Your boy Tom McCarthy on NBC Sports Philly. He was awake for this one, Scotty. Here's Bryce.
2-2 pitch. That one is hit high and deep to right. It is a moonshot, and it's gone into the Nationals bullpen. A two-run home run by Bryce Harper. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
By the way, Carver High, when I was in Philadelphia on Saturday for the Phillies game, everywhere you go in Philly, you got to wear a mask again, except at the stadium outdoors. But when you go inside, you have to wear them. Same as like Pittsburgh. If you go to the Steeler game, which I have tickets, you have to wear a mask anywhere indoors in that stadium. Out in the open air, you don't have to wear it. But everywhere you went in Philadelphia, restaurants, hotels, anywhere you go, bars, you got to wear a mask again. It's crazy again out there.
No, it really is. Let's hear from Joe Girardi now. He knows that Bryce Harper is absolutely carrying them at the moment. Here's Girardi.
He's been incredible. What he's done for this club has been absolutely incredible. And he has that ability to, all the time. I mean, that's how good of a player he is. He's one of those guys you don't necessarily go and, get a soda or a hot dog when he comes up to hit. you kind of stay in your chair and you wait to see the at-bat. But he's meant so much to us. He's grinded it out. He's played every day. He's stolen bases. He's played good defense. He's walked. He's hit home runs. He's driven in runs, big hits. To get us a 2-0 lead right away, was great. And he's been special.
Let me give you a review, Carver High. Diamond Club seats right behind home plate. Order 2 popcorns, a root beer, a Coke. $25. The popcorn was from last August, stale. And $25 for 2 stale popcorns and a root beer and a Coke. I'll tell you what, that makes me want to go to the bathroom in Citizens and miss his at-bat. What a ripoff. And at least can you give us fresh popcorn at the baseball game? Not the closet, stale-ass popcorn that only stone people eat. I mean, when you're sitting in the Diamond Club, but I'm having a ruby instead of a diamond for my bag of popcorn. Screw you, Phillies. Nice job with your stale-ass expensive food. You like that review, Carver High, right there?
That was a good popcorn review you just gave us of the Phillies, that's for sure. By the way, they have won 4 games in a row. They are now 3.5 back of the Atlanta Braves in the National League East. They are hopefully going to fatten up on the Nationals this week, and that will help their cause. Let's go to San Diego right now. We know the struggles that they have had recently. They beat the Diamondbacks 7-5. Fernando Tatis Jr., the big fly on Bally Sports San Diego.
Fernando.
And a breaking ball hit a long way to deep left center field. That ball is back and it is gone. 2-run home run for Fernando Tatis Jr., his 36th of the year. And the Padres off to the fast start on top 2-0.
Stanton and Ohtani's were further. I mean, he just literally, he hit a nice bomb, but that Stanton bomb, honestly, I mean, not only that, it ricocheted off that rock out there and left and went all over Hell's Bells, landed in some guy's lap out in his, Bonneville out in the parking lot.
That was the 3rd time this season that Ohtani, Tatis Jr., and Vlad Guerrero Jr. all homered on the same day. The Padres now, Scotty, a half game back of Cincinnati in the wild card chase. The Reds have done themselves no favors. They've lost 3 in a row, 2 to Miami and 1 to St. Louis. The Cardinals, by the way, and me and you can't stand this because we always want them buried by September 1st. And sure enough, here we go again. Cardinals 2.5 back of the Reds for the second wild card. Are we adding a third team in here? Are the Cardinals for real? Or are we still just going the Reds and the Padres for the second wild card spot?
Well, I mean, the Cardinals are clearly alive at 2.5 out of the wild card because they play so many games against the Reds and Brewers the rest of the way, which are the teams in the playoff, in the lead, so you can gain precious, valuable ground if you beat them. The Cardinals loaded up in pitching at the deadline. Wainwright's great. Lester looked good last night. They've been playing great defense. I hate to say it because I thought they were dead and buried in dirt on top, but they are clearly alive because of what's in front of them. Big games against the best teams where you can gain a game every night if you beat them. I think the Cardinals are definitely in it, and the Reds are not playing well, and don't tell me the Padres are playing well just because they won last night against that crappy Arizona single-A team they beat.
3-7 in their last 10. I still just have a feeling that the Padres somehow are going to figure this thing out and play either the Dodgers or the Giants in that one gamer. All right, Scotty, we still have a little bit more baseball to do. We've got the Brewers and the Giants from last night, the Dodgers and the Braves, and all of tonight's games.
When it comes to sports betting, SportsMapBets.com is the site you need. From weekly betting guides to single-game breakdowns of the point spread, money line, over, under, and more, SportsMapBets has all the info you need to make the best play. SportsMapBets.com.
Become connected.
Want to stay connected with SportsMap Radio through social media? Check out our new Facebook page. Like SportsMap Radio on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at SportsMap Radio.
You and I have a connection here.
Follow me.
In my opinion, with Denton Day,
I am
hit or miss. By all means, and you could miss a lot.
To the radio play-by-play voice and our buddy back from here at Youngstown, it is the voice Fitz. Everett Fitzhugh, my friend, how are you?
Man, it feels good to hear your voice again, Mark. Everything's going well, and definitely excited to be back on the airwaves briefly for here in Youngstown.
By all means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Mill Creek Golf Course is now open. Experience the Donald Ross Championship design of both courses, where you can book a tee time online at millcreekmetroparks.org. Mill Creek features a newly remodeled golf shop, new cart paths, and is a Callaway certified club fitting facility with demo days. The PGA professional staff is now accepting golf outings and leagues. For more information, call 330-740-7112 or stop by and see what all Mill Creek Golf Course has to offer you.
Why are we still doing those track and field events? You can see back in the olden times where, like, hey, can you throw a stone?
I got to tell you, those are large individuals.
Oh, my God. That guy dances like a ballerina in that circle, doesn't he?
It reminds me of, like, the hippos dancing.
Completely. He is as light as a feather. Boom, boom, land, launch.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9 Eastern.
The Dave Smith Show.
The great Jim Lampley joining Dave Smith here. You said Mike Tyson has been knocked out in an iconic call. Foreman, when you said it happened when he knocked out Michael Moore with that right hand. Does any one of your fights stand out as the most memorable event for you?
Well, the call that I'm fondest of is it happened because it's so personal. I wasn't really trying to needle George. I was curious. I would say, George, how can you expect to beat Moore? He's a southpaw. He's a mover. And George would say to me, Jim, you watch. Late in the fight, he will come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. As Joe Cortez was counting 6, 7, 8, and it becomes clear that he's going to get to 10, I'm literally thinking to myself, oh my God, he told me for months this was going to happen. Why did I not prepare for this momentous, historic event? And what spontaneously came out of my mouth was, it happened. It happened. That was the right thing to say at the moment, in my view. I'm still proud of it all these years later.
The Dave Smith Show, weekends at 9 p.m. Eastern on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Pharrell Coast to Coast continues now on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Scott Farrell.
Well, I knew I was in trouble when they started yanking Cueto, Webb from their starts back-to-back in San Francisco. And last night, you got a tough Brewers starter on the mound, and Milwaukee beat them.
They certainly did. 3-1, the Brewers take Game 1 in San Francisco. Corbin Burns was on the mound, and he said last night in the Bay, playoff atmosphere between two of the best in the National League. Here's Burns.
They played us tough in Milwaukee, and we were a little shorthanded with our bullpen that series. So, obviously it's good to come out and get a win Game 1 tonight. But yeah, I mean that was definitely a playoff atmosphere and something that could be foreshadowing what we might see in the postseason. So it's one of those things. It's always good to get the first one of a series. But that was definitely a big game tonight.
The Brewers have great pitching, and I'll tell you what, the Giants better be careful, because if they slip up again tonight and the Dodgers win, they'll be a half game back in the West, and they are creeping right now, Carver High.
They certainly are. The Dodgers with another win last night. They beat the Braves 5-3. Let's hear from Dodger manager Dave Roberts. Very pleased with the Dodger performance against Atlanta.
The homers tonight, just the at-bats, just taking walks when we needed to. I thought we did a really nice job against Smiley. So certainly to put up a couple crooked numbers and get a win was great. Obviously, there's also some great defensive plays, the JT play, the Turner play, well, the other Turner play. Just really good stuff, sound baseball.
Listen, I know the Giants have been belly to belly. They've been fantastic. They've been incredible. But if they start having problems with their pitching and injuries and whatever else, COVID, you name it, I think the Dodgers in the last 33 days will pass them and win the division by 5 games. That's how bad I think it'll get.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio. WRDB, The Scourge.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. Today is NFL roster cut down day. Teams have until 4 Eastern to cut their rosters down to 53 players. The regular season starts in a little over a week. Things kick off in Tampa on Thursday, September the 9th. The defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers play host to the Cowboys. Big matchup last night between National League contenders. The Brewers got by the Giants 3-1. Corbin Burns struck out 9 while tossing scoreless baseball into the 7th. He also singled home a run to help his winning cause. Milwaukee's lead atop the National League Central, 9.5 games over Cincinnati. Meanwhile, the Giants gave up a game in the National League West race. They lead the Dodgers by a game and a half. LA with a 5-3 win over Atlanta. In Anaheim, Shohei Ohtani hit his major league leading 42nd home run, leading the Angels past the Yankees 8-7. Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. That's the Sports Flash. Chuck Sanders, Western Reserve Radio.
Staples Connect has everything for back to school at amazing prices. Right now, Crayola 12-count colored pencils and 10+2 Crayola marker bonus packs and Bic Round Stick Ballpoint Pen 10 packs are just 97 cents each. So you won't just be ready for school. You'll be Prepared Parent of the Year ready.
I just want to thank my family and Staples for making this possible.
Visit your local Staples store or staples.com/back-to-school today and get more than ready for school. Ends 9/18, limit 30 on Crayola. Bic pens in store only.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Western Reserve Radio is your home for Cleveland Cobras football action all summer long. Inside handoff to the tailback. Let's running room to the outside across the 20, 15, 10, and pushed out of bounds at the 5-yard line is Eddie Edwards. It is 1st and goal for the Cobras. Candaris is going to keep it. 10-5, touchdown Cobras. Great read by Candaris. Follow all of the hard-hitting action of GDFL football and the Cleveland Cobras right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Sports Radio 1240 and Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting have combined to bring you the Sandrock Concrete High School Football Game of the Week.
Cappy stood up, drive through a defender, touchdown, DC Cappy.
Listen every Friday night starting at 6:40 for the best in local high school football action.
Under pressure, we're going to get the sack.
Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting and Sports Radio 1240 together, bringing the Valley all the best high school football action all season long.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com. Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
And we welcome you to another episode of By All Means right here on Western Reserve Radio. By All Means Season 2, Episode 29, presented by Mill Creek Golf Course. Visit millcreekmetroparks.org for more information. Find us on Facebook, Western Reserve Radio, Twitter, at Western Reserve Radio. That's at WR_radio, the Live 365 app and TuneIn, and just go to westernreserveradio.com. Time to jump right in with our first guest. And usually we're talking racing with James Dotson, and we're talking fantasy football with James Dotson. But James, we've got to talk about the brand new Lawrence County Sports Network. Tell us about that.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. And I do miss the fantasy football talks. I got the first draft tonight, but that's old news compared to the Lawrence County Sportsnet we've just created over here in Western Pennsylvania, a broadcast network intending to broadcast over 100 live sporting and community events in Lawrence County to be able to, just to be able to showcase kids around here. Lawrence County kind of stuck in the middle between Erie and Pittsburgh, kind of stuck in terms of getting that good quality coverage on a Friday night. And we just thought it would be prudent for us to try to be able to get some more showcasing for these kids. So the Lawrence County Sportsnet was born out of that. It's kind of been a brainchild for the last 3 or 4 years. And finally, with the help of the Lawrence County Community Action Partnership as our powering sponsor, we're able to start getting these games going. Past week had our first two broadcasts of the year, and we're going to continue going all through football season with this live video coverage.
So tell us about the talent that you are working with. Who are you working with in front of and behind the camera and mic?
Well, so the main on-air talent, myself, Tim Continenza, who does games with you guys on Western Reserve Radio. Two of the main play-by-play workers. Lee Moan is one of the greatest color analysts in the area. He's from Butler County, but has worked with Lawrence County Radio for the past probably 12, 13 years on and off in various aspects. And we're hoping to get a couple other broadcasters, Corey Campano, another big name from Trib Live, part of their broadcasting network, to be able to be coming on board with us. And that's some of the on-air talent and just so many great people behind the scenes. Joe Canciello, Aaron Vigiano, Dom Summers, three incredible producers that have just, they've bought all into what we've been doing. And honestly, most of the people that we're going to be working with in the behind the scenes aspect are people, producers, camera workers who started doing this for the individual school districts when everything went down with the pandemic last year. All these schools doing a great job of streaming, your live video on YouTube. But the missing piece was putting together, obviously, the commentating to go with it, just to give that little extra zing that people want to be able to watch. But a lot of the great ideas we've gotten were from some of these producers at the local schools, and we've been lucky enough to have a bunch of them come on board with us to now produce and work with us at the Lawrence County Sportsnet.
A little birdie that I may work with on Fridays told me it's a multi-camera production. So you've got to have some good sponsors and good financial backers to be able to have a multi-camera production.
Oh, it all starts with LCAP, and they jumped on board from the very beginning. The Lawrence County Community Action Partnership, I can't thank them enough for the stuff that they've done in terms of being the powering sponsor. They've worked with us in the purchasing of all this equipment, and it's at least a 2 or 3 camera production at each one of the games that we're intending to do over the course of this year. And again, that's in a large part because of what they've done, but a large part of what these various schools were able to put on, how we can help them out, how they can help us out, and then all the other local sponsors to help us along the way as well. The more sponsors we get, the more games we're going to be able to do over the course of the year, and it's just been it's been incredible to see these local businesses, be able to step up and say, you know what, I normally wouldn't be able to cut this kind of check, but I really love what you guys are doing. I think that we can really make this a great product, and we're glad to be able to help out because this is something this area desperately needs, and we're glad to be able to provide that for them.
I want to talk to you about one of the games last weekend, and I know this is not a team that is in Lawrence County, but not often do teams from this part of Ohio and Western Pennsylvania get together, and I thought we'd have a much better game when Ursuline and Hickory played last week, and it turned out to be a rout for the Irish that are averaging over 50 points per game. Is Ursuline that good, in your opinion, or is the Hornets maybe down a little bit this year?
I think a little bit of both. I think Hickory's going to have a couple of down years. I know they lost a lot to graduation, but they're still going to be solid. They're still going to be a contender in District 10. But also, first game of the year for Hickory that was, and Ursuline already having that extra game under their belts. I know that has to play a little bit of an effect, but I do think the Irish are just going to be that strong this year, and I think Hickory will be a contender, but probably not to the effect that we've seen, in recent memory the last 4 or 5 years.
James Dotson on the line with us, the owner-operator, Lawrence County Sportsnet. And, having spent 5 years over there covering high school football, having a cousin that coaches now at Sharpsville in District 10 and the other Mark Means, tell us what teams are in Lawrence County that you'll be covering for our Ohio fans that may not know.
Well, we are going to be covering, there are 8 schools in Lawrence County, Neshannock, Mohawk, Shenango, Laurel, Union, and Elwood City being the 6 main schools that we will be covering. Newcastle is obviously the biggest of those schools. They get a lot of good coverage from the local radio station, which we have now begun a partnership with that, and including our first game with them this weekend. So when Newcastle hosts Quaker Valley this weekend, it will be our camera's going to cover the game, but connecting with the radio operation of WKST 1200. So with that in mind, where you can combine forces with what they're doing, what they've already done well for many years, and provide just that little bit of an extra service to the fans who want to be able to watch the game. And it ends up being a win-win for both of us. And we're going to do the same thing with the final school, Wilmington area, who is half in Lawrence County, half in Mercer County, and already have plans to head up to Wilmington and combine with the Mercer County radio up there, 96.7 sports radio, to be able to cover the Wilmington Greyhounds, a team that has been now to the state finals here in Pennsylvania in 2 of the last 3 years. So we've already created some pretty nice partnerships to get as great coverage as we possibly can. And with that too, that means we can be covering more games. And the end goal in a couple of years down the road, we fear, but who knows, if it's going well, we can get it even sooner. We'd love to be able to broadcast every single game, especially football, basketball season, every game on a Friday night. If we can get them on our airwaves, we're going to try to do so, and we have every intention to make that happen to get the best quality coverage for these young athletes.
I know those guys well at 96.7, led by Bob Greenberg with Mark Slazak and Ryan Briggs and Chris Birch. Those would be some great guys for you to work with over there on those fringe Mercer County, Lawrence County type games.
Oh, absolutely. You can't beat Bob, you can't beat Mark, and same thing with the Newcastle radio. I mean, Ken LeBovie's been doing this for, he would say for 20 years too long at this point probably, but just, to be able to combine those forces, it just increases how important this is and how great it can be. You want the best of the best, and these radio guys, radio is a dying breed. People want to be able to watch it, but guess what? When you can get the quality voices that you've heard for years combined with the visuals that people have now gotten used to in the past year with pandemic YouTube streaming, it just makes it that much better.
James Dotson with us on this episode of By All Means. James, tell our listeners how they can find your games, whether it's social media, YouTube, a website. How do they find you?
Well, basically, you can find us any which way. The easiest way is just to go to lcsportsnet.com or Google search Lawrence County Sportsnet, and it'll pop right up. You can find us on YouTube every week, Facebook Live, so follow us on Facebook, Lawrence County Sportsnet, and, of course, on the Twitter atmosphere. That's where we'll have most of our in-game updates, the Twitter handle @LC Sportsnet. But on every Friday night, anytime there's a game, you should be able to find us on our website, on our YouTube page. Usually we're connected to one of the school's YouTube pages, Facebook Live, and we are also part of the Trib Live High School Sports Network. So every game gets simulcast onto Trib Live, which is the official streaming host of all WPIAL sports. So any which way you can find the Lawrence County Sportsnet and hopefully be one of the thousands that have tuned in already for the first 2 games, and 3 more coming this weekend. We're off and running here with high school football here in Western PA.
Just a couple minutes left with our friend James Dotson, and I got to ask you, one of the stories for Western Pennsylvania football that I have followed this year, I know it's not Lawrence County, but it's been the fact that West Middlesex and Sharpsville have co-opted. Of course, my cousin Mark had been the head coach at West Middlesex the last few years, and I don't think enough credit is given to Sharpsville for doing that co-op, James, knowing they were not going to be postseason eligible for this fall. That has to speak a lot for that school district.
It does, and it's just smart thinking, though, on the part of Sharpsville as well, because they know that they have numbers that are extremely low in the next couple of years in terms of the middle schoolers that are coming up into the high school. It was kind of forward thinking. It's terrible for these seniors that they're not going to be able to have a chance at the playoffs. It's terrible for West Middlesex seniors who aren't going to have a senior night, but they are going to have at least one game played at West Middlesex from what I'm hearing. They should be wearing the West Middlesex red during that game, supposedly also possibly trying to get a splash of red into the Sharpsville uniforms this year, which is also kind of fun too, because I believe the last time Sharpsville won, I don't know if it was their district championship or if it was the last time they made it to states back in the 80s, but they had a splash of red in their uniforms that year. So kind of a little interesting fun factoid for the Blue Devils. But Blue Devils, the big red, and that combination, it speaks to a bigger volume of the fact that you're going to see more and more of these co-ops having to happen as numbers dwindle down across especially across Western PA. It feels like every school is getting lower in terms of the numbers going out for football, for safety reasons, for enrollment reasons, all of the above. And unless there ever is a push for the 8-man football, and that's a story for another day, but if there's ever a push for 8-man football, then maybe you can have some of these smaller schools stay alive a lot longer. But you can't survive with a roster of 18, 20 kids and expect to make it through an entire football season. So these co-ops just show a great unity in an area, and that's kind of what we like in Lawrence County, because these schools, that when they're not playing against each other, they're all rooting for each other, and that's now a bond that Charlottesville and West Middlesex get to share as well, that they are not only rooting for each other, but playing with each other in one sport, and then maybe come basketball season, they're now enemies on the other side of the court from each other. So fun memories and just a great job of both school districts coming together to make this work.
Finally, James, what are the games that you and your crew will be covering this weekend over there in Lawrence County?
I mentioned the Newcastle hosting Quaker Valley in all non-conference action here week 1 of the season, week 1 after our official week 0 last week. But that'll be with our WKST friends running the audio. I'll be at Friday night at Union as they host Elwood City. Believe it or not, those two schools, just about 12, 15 miles apart, haven't played since World War II. Haven't played since 1944, so that'll be a fun matchup on Friday night. And then special Saturday night action, Shenango Wildcats hosting Laurel, another Lawrence County versus Lawrence County game. So, again, games that would not be covered normally because they're not considered the huge marquee matchups. But if you live in Lawrence County, you know that it is going to be standing room only there at Shenango on Saturday night, and we'll have the cameras to be able to cover it for those who can't get the ticket.
Whatever you do, don't let one of those schools over there schedule Bishop Sycamore. We know that turned out to not go very well this weekend.
Bishop Sycamore, I believe, was on the week -5 schedule for next year for the Scotties. So we'll make sure they stay off of our radar for sure.
James, appreciate it. Looking forward to see how things grow and how we continue to grow and potentially work together in the future with the Lawrence County Sports Net and us here at Western Reserve Radio. So thanks for a few minutes, and maybe next time we'll catch up on the old fantasy football draft.
It sounds good. Good luck in those drafts, and anxious to be able to potentially work with you guys. We appreciate it.
That was our friend James Dotson, who works with and helped found the Lawrence County Sports Network. Make sure to just look for that up in Google, Lawrence County Sports Net, if you're looking to find out what games they'll be covering with the, I believe you said the 9 schools over there in Lawrence County. Of course, we're familiar with, Newcastle and Wilmington and all the other great programs that they have over there in Western Pennsylvania. It is time for us to turn our attention to the games we will have this weekend here on Western Reserve Radio. And we've got a couple of great matchups that Dave and I will kind of break down, but you've seen it on our social media. So, of course, we can tell you Friday night, Western Reserve Radio Springfield going to head up to the Spire Institute and take on the Geneva Eagles, who are a pretty good team back in 2020. We'll let you know more about them a little bit later. And Tim Continenza and I will make the trip over to Howland. Of course, that's over in Warren, as Poland and Howland will get together. That'll be over on Western Reserve Radio 2 and a Sports Radio 1240. You heard that commercial leading into the show, just promoting the fact that, excited to be partners here at Western Reserve Radio with our friends over at Sports Radio 1240. And one of our 2 games every Friday night will be simulcast on Sports Radio 1240, beginning at 6:40. And this week's game will include the Poland-Howland matchup. And, of course, that is a 6:40 pregame, and it will be a kickoff of just around 7 o'clock. So those are the games Dave and I will focus in on here after we take this timeout. We'll be right back.
Mill Creek Golf Course has been the Valley's leader for golfing fun since 1928. It features 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross and was voted a top 30 municipal facility by Golf Week in 2012. The Mill Creek Golf Shop is a certified Callaway Golf custom fitting center and it is stocked with your favorite golf apparel and accessories. Mill Creek Golf Course is now booking tee times for this year's golf season. Please call us at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Hi, it's Mark Means, host of By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council. In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
To the radio play-by-play voice and our buddy back from here at Youngstown, it is the voice Fitz. Everett Fitzhugh, my friend, how are you?
Man, it feels good to hear your voice again, Mark. Everything's going well, and definitely excited to be back on the airwaves briefly for here in Youngstown.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com. Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Right here on Western Reserve Radio, we jump into what's trending. And Dave, I think we did quite a good job with the schedule last week. We had a 2-point game on Western Reserve Radio 2, and we had, a 6-point game on Western Reserve Radio with Brookfield and Springfield. Some pretty good games last week.
Yeah, they were pretty good. I couldn't wait for them to get done, but especially that Hubbard game.
Day.
That Hubbard-Mooney game, it was giving me a heart attack.
Yeah, that was the first time in school history that Hubbard defeated Cardinal Mooney 21-19. That was quite a game Tim and I had. But let's look at this week. And, coming off that emotional win at Brookfield, the come-from-behind win, Springfield heads up to the Spire Institute up towards the Cleveland area. They are 1-1. They take on the Geneva Eagles, who are also 1-1. And this is a game playing up for Springfield because Geneva is a Division III school in Region 9. That's the region that, Hubbard and Niles and a lot of our local teams are in as well. So it's going to be a test for Springfield to go on the road and play a very good Geneva team.
Yeah, it's going to be a really big test for Springfield, especially the way they've been playing the last 2 weeks. This isn't the Springfield team of last year. They've lost a lot of talent. These guys aren't just gelling quite yet. So let's see what week 3 brings. And it's going to be one heck of a game. And I actually envy Bob and Jim, because I don't know if you've ever been to the Spire Institute. I've been there multiple times for volleyball. The facilities up there are absolutely outstanding.
I've seen pictures of it, and people really do rave about those facilities. And here's the thing about Geneva in this matchup. Of course, Springfield went to the state championship game, came up short in that game for the second consecutive year. Well, Geneva, they played 3 games, I should say, in the playoffs last year, including advancing to the 3rd round by beating Hubbard in a close game. So they are a team that is familiar with schools from the Valley. And it's one of those where, neither team wants to suffer that second loss of the season. So this is going to be a big game.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game all around. Springfield's really going to have to tighten up their offense and their little bit of their defense. They really got to have to get those timing routes out that they've been missing the past couple weeks. The running game, they need to open up the holes. The linemen just got to get the blocks down better.
Yeah, it's one of those where, I mean, you've got a lot of new faces. You've got a new center in front of Bo Brungard for the first time in a long time. I mean, you look at the unofficial playoff projections right now, and, Springfield at 1-1 is in the number 14 position right now. And, of course, you need to be within that top 12 now to make it to the opening round of the playoffs. And with the schedule that they're going to play and the teams that they're going to play the rest of the way, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But this could be a big game for them to win.
Yeah, they need to win this game. If they don't win this game, this actually could hurt them in the computer points just because of Geneva's record and everything. If they actually can pull off a win here and Geneva goes on, just being the higher division, it'll actually help them immensely in the computer rankings.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, how things go because, up next after Geneva for Springfield is a Louisville Rockets team that has been throwing the football all over the yard, led by their quarterback, Vinny Ballone, who has put up some monster numbers in the first couple of weeks. But, that's the difference. Us media types can talk about, next week, but that the coaching staff there at Springfield is focused on one thing, going on the road and picking up another W.
Oh, right. And every coach tells every player, don't look past this Friday. We don't care what's going on the following Friday, the Friday after that, week 5, week 6, week 7. You're looking at week 3 right now, and that's only farther you need to look. So, yeah, I mean, these teams, it's still early in the season for everybody. But, yeah, you just got to watch. I mean, Louisville, yeah, they're throwing the ball all over the place. And Springfield might actually end up with another challenge against Louisville. It's just not the Springfield team of last year.
Moving on to the other game we will have on Western Reserve Radio 2 and Sports Radio 1240, Poland and Howland, coming into this third game in different paths. Poland, losing their opener to Canfield in week 1 on Thursday night. Bounce back, beating Louisville last week. Howland wins their first game also on the opening Thursday night, shutting out the Niles Red Dragons, and then Howland loses to Ravenna last week. So both teams, kind of coming in on an even keel after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I got sidetracked here. You're talking about Poland and Allen, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's going to be one heck of a matchup. It usually is a pretty good matchup, and Howland's actually looking a lot better this year than they have in the past. So I'm kind of want to really hear what's going to go on in that game come Friday night.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious how this game is going to play out. These two teams did not play each other in 2020. You go back to 2019, and if our game Friday is anything like the last time they played, we're going to be in for another pretty good game. Howland beat Poland 14-13 in 2019, the last time that they played. The issue with the Tigers, when you watch them, they, at least the first game that I saw, they're pretty one-dimensional. They are a team that mostly relies on running the football, and they do struggle if, they kind of get behind the chains or have a situation where they are forced to throw the football either a long down and distance or the possibility if they have to come from behind.
So, yeah, I mean, with Howland, they've always been pretty much one-dimensional. If you remember when back in the 90s, they had a running back that was pretty good, and Matt Theory. And Howland's always like that.
Well, actually.
Yeah, we remember that game quite well. But Howland's always been a good running team. And if they do get behind, yeah, they usually have a wide receiver out or a tight end out, and they can usually move the chains. But with a lot of teams, and I hate to say it, you called it before week 1, that there wasn't going to really be too many undefeated teams, and I think one of the only ones right now is South Range. but almost everybody in the Valley, besides South Range and Hubbard, are 2-0. Those are the only two, I believe.
I mean, there may be a couple of others, but, here's the thing that's interesting, too. You look at Howland, who is playing as an independent team this year. They open up with Niles, who's their rival. They have Ravenna last week. They're home for Poland. And then check out the next couple of games for them. They go on the road on September 10th to take on an undefeated Boardman team. And then they have a team from Toledo coming all the way from Lucas County to play them on the 18th at Howland. They're playing Toledo Waite, who unfortunately had their first two games canceled of the season. But that's quite a travel to go to take on a Howland team, and Toledo Waite's Division II, so they're just a step bigger than Howland.
Yeah, that's going to be quite the drive for Toledo Waite. That's about a probably 3.5 hour bus ride. I'm sure they're bringing charters for that long of a trip, but it's still going to be every bit of a 3-hour ride. And a team traveling that long, that's usually in the home team's advantage when they're getting off them buses like that, because that's a lot of travel for a day.
Trust me, I've spent a lot of time on buses like that. It's not always a lot of fun. For Poland, after they play Howland this week, they head to Hubbard, to Alumni Field to take on Hubbard, who, by a quirk of their schedule, begins the season with 4 straight games at home before going on the road. And, Poland and Hubbard's become a bit of a rivalry. We've called a lot of those games the last few years, and those have been some intense football games.
Yeah, they have been pretty intense football games. And ever since Hubbard and Brookfield basically have dissolved, it has been Poland. Poland has been the rivalry. Poland's been the one that has, in the past a couple of times, stopped Hubbard from making either the playoffs or moving on in the playoffs. It's been a pretty good rivalry, actually. So, yeah, I look forward to the Hubbard-Poland game.
So, again, the game's here on Western Reserve Radio this weekend on Western Reserve Radio with Jim Craven and the coach, Bob Gessler. It is Springfield at Geneva. Both teams are 1-1. That game being played at the Spire Institute. So I guess that'll be the first long road trip for either one of our crews this year. And Tim Continenza and I will, again, for the third straight week, funny how that works out, Dave, we'll be in Trumbull County, as it will be Poland at Howland. And that'll be the game on Western Reserve Radio 2 and Sports Radio 1240. Kind of like how that scheduling works out for a guy that doesn't have to leave the county for the first 3 games.
Yeah, I wonder who made that schedule.
I have absolutely no idea, because the game in week 5 just might be in Trumbull County too.
Yeah, I can imagine it probably is. So, yeah, you're not traveling too far from home. So.
Not the first few weeks, but there's some travel coming up later on in the season. We don't want to, give away all the games that we may be doing, but there's the possibility you could see Tim and I at Mollenkopf in week 5 for the Ursuline Harding matchup. That might be a pretty good one. So
especially the way Ursuline's playing right now.
Not bad when you're averaging over 50 a game.
Yeah, 50 a game. But you know what? Let's go back to your game on Friday. Caffey, this kid is awesome. I watched actually the replay on TV after Friday night, and I just could not believe the legs on this kid.
I mean, you're talking, roughly, because, math is not my thing, around, 650 yards and 8 touchdowns approximately for him through the first 2 games. And they've got Cleveland Shaw at Hubbard coming up on Friday, so we'll have to see how that one goes.
Yep, and we'll see if Cleveland Shaw, because I guess Cleveland Shaw's game got canceled last week. So
they did not play against Cleveland JFK. Take a break. Come back. High school football talk with Steve Rubin.
Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Sandrock Concrete specializes in all types of concrete, driveways, sidewalks, basements, and garages. We also do stamp-colored concrete in many different designs. We do interior and exterior stonework, regular brick and block work. Sandrock Concrete is fully insured. Call Jerry Sandrock at 330-506-0013 for an estimate. Also find them on Facebook at Sandrock Concrete LLC. Sandrock Concrete, where you deal with the owner all the time.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier. Then make sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
To the radio play-by-play voice and our buddy back from here at Youngstown, it is the voice Fitz. Everett Fitzhugh, my friend, how are you?
Man, it feels good to hear your voice again, Mark. Everything's going well, and definitely excited to be back on the airwaves briefly for here in Youngstown.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Back right here on By All Means. Time to talk some more high school football. That means our friend Steve Ruman is on the phone, who is, what we say, multitasking at both the Vindicator and the Tribune. Would that be correct, Steve?
Yeah, I guess you would say that. They're kind of one and the same, but not one and the same, I guess. So, yeah, however you want to word it.
So we're 2 weeks in. I know it's not a lot of games so far, but what do you think after 2 weeks into the high school football season here in the Valley?
I think that we have a lot of good teams here this year, and I don't always say that. You know, there are many years where I'm a bit critical about the play in the area, but right now, I mean, you look at some of the teams and even before the season started, I remember throwing out 3 teams that I said, I think these 3 teams could go to furthest among all the 45 teams in the Tri-County area. And then a week later, I was looking at it and I'm like, well, you know, I could make a case for 3 more, you know, and I think we got some really good play here this year. You look at Fitch, you look at, you know, South Range and Springfield. I mean, before the season started, I had said that I believed that whoever won that Springfield South Range game could go 10-0, and you know, South Range is obviously going to have some great tests ahead of them, including Week 10. I know you're looking forward to that one, being
That's
a Hubbard grad. You know, but they have a legitimate shot. I mean, Kennedy, I think some people overlook what Kennedy might do this year because of you know, losing Cam Hollabaugh, but I mean they're just not missing a beat. You look at LeBray, I'm still sold on Brookfield. I think they can go far. And I know I missed a lot of teams there, but Ursuline, I think Ursuline could make a serious run. So I just think overall we got a lot of good football this year.
It has been interesting through 2 weeks because, we've gotten some traditional games that in years past may have been played later on in the season, like Niles Howland, like Poland Canfield, South Range and Springfield is usually played early on in the year. So you're getting some of those rivalry games early on. And then, it kind of sets up knowing that, separating maybe who the contenders are from the teams that aren't.
Yeah, it's been interesting, and I had talked about that earlier in the year in one of the stories that I wrote about how, week one, it used to be a lot of these area teams would play, some of the Cleveland inner city schools or Akron or whatever the case may be. You just kind of knew what to expect in week one, and then you waited for league play. Well, I think what happened is a lot of when a lot of these leagues resolved or dissolved, you had like South Range and Springfield playing later on in the year because they were in the same league. The same thing with Howland and Niles and whatnot. Well, these games were forced to be put either at the tail end of the year or more than likely at the start of the year, and that gave us some great matchups. I mean, you mentioned Canfield Poland. To start the season, we would have never seen that in years past, and we saw that this year.
And there's some interesting names to talk about when it comes to players in Trumbull County through 2 weeks, and I'll just throw two out at you that I know you're familiar with: Hubbard's T.C. Caffey and Ashley Macias from Howland.
Absolutely, and I saw the first one or the second one that you mentioned. The first week, and you talk about it. Just a great story, a great high school. I mean, it's the reason we cover these games to get to be part of stories like that with, a female kicker scoring all the points in one football game. I mean, 25 years ago, we would have never thought that was possible. And here it was, opening week, and she scores the only points in one of the biggest rivalries in Trumbull County. So that was great to see. And then you mentioned TC, and my goodness, what a year he's started out with, over 600 yards in 2 weeks, unbelievable. And that wasn't no fluke. What we saw out of him in the first 2 weeks, I kind of expect to see that out of him week in and week out.
And it's interesting because I used to work when I was with the Scrappers in the front office. I worked with Ashley's dad, Al. So I've known that family for a long time. And we were actually, I was at that game and we were texting back and forth throughout that game. And, she's really put a lot of time and hard work. And I'm looking forward to seeing her kick for Howland when we have the Poland Howland game coming up on Friday.
Absolutely, and the thing is she was on the squad last year, but she was used for extra points and whatnot, and they got enough confidence in her now that she's kicking off and doing the field goals and the PATs and whatnot. So this isn't just kind of a showcase type thing. She's the real deal for them.
And, it's interesting with our playoff system, expanding, whether you like it or not, and pretty much every coach I've talked to doesn't.
Which I don't.
Right? Most of us don't. If you are to, you drop a game and you come out of the gate 0-3 or 1-2, when the playoffs are expanded as much as they are, your season is not lost by any stretch.
No, and that's, no matter what the coaches and I, what you said, the vast majority of these coaches don't like it. But from that aspect, they have to like that in some regards. If you start out 0-3, if you did that, last year, the year well, not last year, but any year prior to 2020, now you're playing for pride or you're playing for a league title, whatnot. If you're 0-3, realistically, unless you're, maybe a Kennedy or an Ursuline or something like that, where you can get in at 4-6, 5-5, for the most part, you knew you were playing, for pride and whatnot. But now with the setup, absolutely. I mean, you could have a horrific first half of the season and turn things around and still make the playoffs. So in that regards, I'm sure, these coaches know, hey, these kids have a little bit more motivation regardless of how we play in August and early September.
And it does make me wonder, Steve, going forward, I know high school schedules aren't like college schedules where, teams are booking to play each other, 15 years down the road. There are some advanced scheduling, but if you're a team and you're a program, and I'm not going to, pick out anybody specific, but if you're a team that you're traditionally a playoff team, what point do you have to schedule up and play a team that you might not win in a non-conference matchup? Because if you can schedule some teams you have a good chance of winning, you're going to be in the playoffs pretty much year in and year out.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, you could look at it both ways, or you could say, hey, we could afford to schedule up and take on some of those challenges, and if we don't succeed, now we can fall back on some other games, that we feel comfortable with and still maybe, pick up 5 or 6 wins and make it. But in the same regards, you don't want to finish 14th or 15th or 16th in your region and be one and done. I mean, I was talking about that with somebody in Niles yesterday. I said, man, Niles' schedule is really set up nice. They're 1-1 right now. They have Youngstown East, they have Lakeview, they have Jefferson, and I was like, they could very well start off 4-1, 5-1, and somebody, they came back and said, well, yeah, they could also finish 5-5 and end up, playing Steubenville in week 1, and you don't want to do that, and that's the thing that you really have to look out for, those week 1 matches when you're going to have some very, very lopsided competition.
And that's interesting because I was actually talking about that same thing yesterday, and it's one of those where that second half of the schedule where you still have to play South Range, you have to play Poland, you have to play Hubbard, you have to play Girard.
Yeah, Struthers, and Struthers. So that's the final 5 for Niles. I mean, so in their case, you want to get as many wins on the first half of the schedule as you can because it gets pretty rough from there.
We've got a lot of great leagues in the Valley, but the NE8 is one of the newest, and it just might be one of the toughest to win because you're probably going to have 5 or more playoff teams come out of that conference this year.
It is. I was critical about the way just the whole All-American conference was set up and the 3 tiers and the split up and whatnot. But what became of it, with the NE8, that it evolved into a really, really, you hate to always, you always hear coaches say, well, on any given week, that's pretty much the case right here with the NE8. And you're right. I mean, we're going to have, that first year that it was formed, I believe we had 5 teams make the playoffs in 2019. And, that was with 8 teams per region. So you could only imagine, what could happen now.
So I know you've been picking games in the paper for a long time, and I wouldn't point out that I believed you picked Alliance to beat Niles last week, but let me ask you about let me ask you about our two
trust
games
me,
here.
You're not the first one to remind me of that.
So who do you like in this Geneva-Springfield game? That's a tough test for Springfield. Geneva's a perennial playoff
that's
team.
going to be a very tough test. I don't know. The first week when Springfield played South Range, because I was completely sold on South Range, and I kept saying all summer long, South Range, and I really touted them as maybe the team that could go to furthest in our area. But when it came time to pick that game, it was like Springfield has the better team, or South Range I thought had the better team. Springfield had Brungard, and I can't pick against Brungard, and I went with South Range, or South Springfield, and I almost feel the same way about this game with Geneva. It's like you look at Geneva and think, man, they got the talent to beat this team, but at the same time, I just I love what this kid does for Springfield and how he can keep them in every single game.
And the other game we'll have Western Reserve Radio 2 and Sports Radio 1240 WBBW, Poland and Howland. And a big game for both teams. Howland has Boardman next. Poland has Hubbard next. But neither team can afford to look ahead to that game because they've got to worry about this one on Friday.
Yeah, and I was a little bit surprised with Howland this past week. I thought they might, bump it up to 2-0. They finished strong last year. I mean, you look how they finished last year with beating Kennedy and Niles in back regular season games, and then they had a playoff win in between that. And then they came out and really played strong against Niles. They only scored 6 points, but man, they moved that ball up and down the field. So I think they have maybe turned the corner. And then you look at a Poland and I'm definitely pretty high on them. So yeah, we got some really good matchups this year or this week.
Steve, appreciate it as always. I know it's supposed to be fantastic, comfortable, cool weather for this Friday. So enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's going to be a beautiful night. This will be our best Friday night in terms of weather that we've had this year. So yeah, it's going to be nice and comfortable.
That's Steve Ruman from the Vindicator and the Tribune. You appreciate him stopping by to talk with some high school football with us. We'll talk to a different person who covers high school football in the Valley every week, and we will definitely enjoy that. We'll let you know coming up after the break. We're going to have a little fun next week inside those Gessler Propane studios. We'll be all in there next week. We'll let you know a little bit about that. But again, don't forget our games here on the Western Reserve Radio networks. Western Reserve Radio has Springfield at Geneva, and over on Western Reserve Radio 2 and Sports Radio 1240, we'll have Poland and Howland for you in that game. And make sure you tune in to some great high school football action here on Western Reserve Radio in our Sandrock Concrete. We'll be right back.
Mill Creek Golf Course has been the Valley's leader for golfing fun since 1928. It features 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross and was voted a top 30 municipal facility by Golf Week in 2012. The Mill Creek Golf Shop is a certified Callaway Golf custom fitting center and it is stocked with your favorite golf apparel and accessories. Mill Creek Golf Course is now booking tee times for this year's golf season. Please call us at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Western Reserve Radio is your home for Cleveland Cobras football action all summer long. Inside handoff to the tailback. With running room to the outside across the 20, 15, 10, and pushed out of bounds to the 5-yard line is Eddie Edwards. It is first and goal for the Cobras. Kandaris is going to keep it. 10-5. Touchdown Cobras. Great read by Kandaris. Follow all of the hard-hitting action of GDFL football and the Cleveland Cobras right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Sports Radio 1240 and Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting have combined to bring you the Sandrock Concrete High School Football Game of the Week.
Caffey stood up, drive through a defender, touchdown, DC Caffey.
Listen every Friday night starting at 6:40 for the best in local high school football action.
Under pressure, we're going to get the sack.
Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting and Sports Radio 1240 together, bringing the Valley all the best high school football action all season long.
Mill Creek Golf Course is now open. Experience the Donald Ross Championship design of both courses, where you can book a tee time online at millcreekmetroparks.org. Mill Creek features a newly remodeled golf shop, new cart paths, and is a Callaway certified club fitting facility with demo days. The PGA professional staff is now accepting golf outings and leagues. For more information, call 330-740-7112 or stop by and see what all Mill Creek Golf Course has to offer you.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common?
They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Ohio high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
You're listening to Western Reserve Radio on westernreserveradio.com.
Welcome back to today's edition of By All Means right here on Western Reserve Radio, brought to you by Mill Creek Golf Course. Visit millcreekmetroparks.org for more information and to book your tee time for those award-winning Donald Ross golf courses today. Big thank you to today's guests, including our friend James Dotson from the Lawrence County Sports Network and Steve Ruman, who writes for the Tribune and the Vindicator. And we thank them for both joining us to talk a little high school football. Coming up on next week's show, going to have a little Week 3 high school football roundtable, as we'll have a lot of guests live in the Gessler Propane Studios next week to talk about the first 3 weeks of the season and look forward to conference play beginning for a lot of teams at that Week 4 mark of the season. And we'll let you know as the week goes along just who is going to be able to be joining us live in studio for that show. Don't forget, this show is available in podcast form. Just search for By All Means on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and many of your favorite places to listen to podcasts, or you can follow me on Twitter. That's Mark_Means at MarcMeans. And that's where you can find the show coming up here in the next couple of hours. Don't forget, Friday night, 6:35 on Western Reserve Radio at Springfield at Geneva, and 6:40 on Western Reserve Radio 2 and Sports Radio 1240. It's Poland at Howland. For my co-host, executive producer Dave Ferris, my name is Mark Means. You've been listening to By All Means right here on Western Reserve Radio. Talk to you next week, everyone.
Listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. NFL teams have until 4 o'clock Eastern today to cut their rosters to 53 players. The Lions have released wide receiver Brashard Perryman, while the Colts have released safety Sean Davis. Other high-profile names expected to be released as well. Fully vaccinated players will be required to get tested for COVID-19 weekly instead of every 14 days. This part of the revised protocols for the regular season agreed upon by the NFL and the NFLPA. Unvaccinated players will continue to be tested daily. A week ago, the NFL said 93% of players in the league have been vaccinated. 49ers rookie quarterback Trey Lance will miss at least a week of practice after injuring his right thumb on his throwing hand during an exhibition game. The injury occurred Sunday night against the Raiders. Tests done on Monday showed a small chip fracture in the thumb. Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. That's the Sports Flash. Chuck Sanders, Western Reserve Radio.
So sticky.
At Hannah's Organic Honey, business may be sweet, but they need an e-commerce queen bee to lead the hive.
Okay, these jars are going to Jakarta. Oh, wait a minute. Does that say Jackson?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
If you're worried about your borderline blood pressure, hear how others are taking charge with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula.
Garlic works safely and naturally to support my blood pressure.
Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula has a custom blend of garlic, vitamins, and minerals, so you know it works.
No garlic taste, no garlic breath.
Take charge of your blood pressure with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
Mark, you're 100% right. He does not get enough credit around the league. Obviously, Coach Calhoun and the assistants and the rest of the players here at YSU know how valuable he is. He is right now their best player on the floor, hands down.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
So, are you enjoying our station? Well, now you can take us along on your mobile device wherever you go.
Wow!
The free Live 365 app is available for both Apple and Android devices.
That sounds like fun. I'll give it a try.
Just go to the Apple app or Google Play Store and download it today.
You're listening to WRDP, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a